an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, chapters 29, 30, and epilogue. In these chapters, we come to the end of the story, and it's so unsatisfying. What are we doing? What was this? Suzanne,
Was this?
Welcome to Unspoiled.
Are you coming to the tree? They strung up a man, they say, who murdered 3. Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree. Are you coming to the tree where dead man called out for his love to flee? Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree. Are you?
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm RoShawn, and I want my time back.
RoShawn's over here gesticulating like an Italian grandmother on camera. You guys can't see her, but I can.
This just what, but like, I can't believe it ended like that between Lucy and Snow. Like it. Oh, she's like the ghost girl in the song. Is she? She didn't have to be. You could have fucking written something.
Do you see why I was so torn about covering this book? Do you get it? Like,
I get
the
it.
first half is so engrossing with the games and seeing how things change, and then there's just this wet fart of an ending that is.
Ma'am,
I'm so sorry. I know you hate that. I shouldn't have done it. I stand by it, though. Really,
I shouldn't have done it, but I stand by it. A memoir by Natasha Winters.
Oh man, that is accurate. So all right, let's start from the beginning. Chapter 29. We've got Coriolanus absolutely wrapped up in self-pity, some grief, but it really feels like that's a distant second.
It is
about what happened to Sejanus.
It is a way distant second. He is so concerned with how all of this is going to, which is not surprising because, like, we know who he is, but it was not surprising and yet somehow still shocking that he could continue to be so fucking self-involved, even after something is traumatic, as horrifying as watching Sejanus be hanged for treason. Coriolanus can only think about how this is all going to affect him. And now, don't get me wrong, right? Like, being afraid that there's a murder weapon out there with your prints on it is valid, right? Like, anybody would be thinking about that. That's not my, like, problem. But the way he thinks about it that is so, like, kind of disgusting.
Yeah.
And then he takes the money that's in the picture, behind the picture.
Yeah.
And then he takes it back later. Yo.
Yeah.
He what? What? My God.
He's not all right.
He is most certainly not okay. Not okay. He needs an intervention. He doesn't have any friends to throw one for him. But True. He needs, like, a room full of people reading letters about how he has hurt them. And, like, if you don't change your way, I won't be able to have a continuing relationship with you. Yeah. So it starts immediately after the horrible death of Sejanus. And Coriolanus goes back to the base and is really in this mode of, I'm not going to give anybody the satisfaction of seeing how upset I am.
Yeah.
They want to see me crack, but I'm going to refuse to give them that satisfaction.
It's really funny because like nobody wants to see him crack.
Nobody.
He has completely invented the scenario in his head.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I was listening. I was reading, and all I could think was, because of who he is and how he behaves, he assumes everybody else thinks the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't understand that these men, Bug and Beanpole, for instance, Sejanus is a good example. They think that they are really friends.
Yeah.
Right? They think they have a friendship with Coriolanus Snow. And
Mm-hmm.
so they would be worried about him and how he's doing after this horrible thing. And then also wanting to share in the sort of like, we were all friends. Do you think that we're also in jeopardy? Maybe they're just like, oh, that was a really fucked up thing that just happened. I wonder if he's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everybody is an op to Coriolanus Snow. Every single person is an op. There are no friendships. There's no, I don't want to jump ahead, but he even like talking about what kind of woman he would marry. Like, this is just all so deeply unsatisfying and also gross. And we knew it had to, like, I knew it was going to end with him being okay because I know he becomes President Snow, right? So it wasn't like this, but so the stakes for me were, how does the Lucy Gray situation resolve? How do they end up not being together? What happens?
Mm-hmm.
And what happened is that he seemingly has gone insane for a moment. But yeah, so we'll get to that too.
Yeah. All right. So for this whole thing is so annoying. So he has this moment where he's like going through Sejanus' stuff. He had killed Sejanus as surely as if he'd bludgeoned him to death like Bobbin or gunned him down like Mayfair. He'd killed the person who'd considered him his brother. But even as the vileness of the act threatened to drown him, a tiny voice kept asking, "What choice did you have? What choice? No choice." Sejanus had been bent on self-destruction, and Coriolanus had been swept along in his wake, only to be deposited at the foot of the hanging tree himself. I love this. He really genuinely doesn't think he had a choice. And like, to a point, I can understand he gets caught. We're best buds. Who's going to believe I'm not involved?
Mm-hmm.
I do understand that, but you could have helped ensure he didn't get caught. And you did the opposite, my guy.
That's the part that is missing from this self-reflection. Is he is acting as if Sejanus just happened to get caught, right? Like the plan failed, they bungled it, and they got caught. He is like, he says, I killed him as surely as if I had bludgeoned him, and then goes immediately to like, I was swept along and got caught up in all of his nonsense, and I was left with no choice. You made an actual choice. You did a very, I don't know if I want to call it premeditated, because it occurs to him in the moment, and it's sort of like an impulsive thing that he does. But the recording of the conversation is sort of like impulsive. But then he follows through with like sending it, which he did not necessarily have to do. He could have erased it.
Sure didn't.
He was active. He played an active part in this. And yeah, because on some level he understands that, like, all right, I love Sejanus, but he was messy.
Mm-hmm.
He was very messy. And he would have eventually, well, he did. He was going to make some choices that would have threatened not just Coriolanus, but the rest of the guys in the troop as well. Like he's like, exposing them to scrutiny and questioning and everything. But Coriolanus has made a decision, a calculated decision in that moment when he records him, that he understands that Sejanus is like an albatross around his neck as far as Coriolanus is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
And that justifies what he does, because in Coriolanus's mind, this man is going to bring about my destruction. Like everything is that intense for Snow. Everything is that heightened for him. Everything is a threat to his survival, which then justifies him doing like anything.
And that's the real, like, that is the question that I kind of come back to over and over again, is like, how much does he really believe? And it really seems like he genuinely doesn't see another outcome for either of them. And I'm not saying that justifies this at all. Please don't get me wrong. But it is fascinating to me that he can be this disconnected from reality, that he, like we just talked about him thinking everybody's watching him, wanting him to crack. Like nobody thinks that, dude. And it's so, and then he tried to think rationally about it. Without him, Sejanus would have died in the arena, prey to the pack of tributes who had tried to kill them as they fled. Technically, Coriolanus had given him a few more weeks of life and a second chance, an opportunity to mend his ways, but he couldn't, didn't care to. He was what he was.
Wild. Absolutely wild. He has given him a second chance, an opportunity, and Sejanus just fucked it all up, frittered it away, spit in Snow's face, basically, to hear him tell it. Yeah. I like
Coriolanus unwrapped one cookie and took a bite. The sweetness spread across his tongue and images flashed in his brain. He gagged on the cookie, bringing up a splash of apple juice along with crumbs. Sweat poured off his body and he began to cry. He wept for Sejanus and for poor old Ma and for sweet devoted Tigress and his feeble delusional grandmam who would soon be losing him in such a sordid way. And for himself, because any day now he would be dead.
Yeah. Yeah. And he is freaking the fuck out.
Yeah.
He has leapt to several conclusions.
Indeed.
He is certain that he's going down for being part of this plot. He's certain that they're going to find the gun, just like they found the handkerchief. His DNA is going to be all over it. His life is over. He's going to be dead in a couple days, as far as Noah's concerned. And that's all he can see. And again, I want to be clear that it's not that I don't think that these are valid concerns, because he did shoot that girl.
Mm-hmm.
That gun is still floating around 12 somewhere, as far as he's concerned, because Spruce didn't get away. But the way that he sort of absolves himself from any complicity in everything that's taken place, it's a stunning talent. Like somebody who is overly convinced that I'm guilty of a lot of shit that I'm not even guilty of, I could use like a dash of this, little, sprinkle a little, it's not my fault, into my everyday situations, because he has it in abundance.
Indeed. So this is when he calms himself down and he finds the cash, and he took one of the creamy fancy envelopes that Janus had brought him from the Capitol, stuffed the money in it, sealed it, and addressed it to Tigress. What else? He found himself thinking of Lucy Gray, the one and now only love of his life. He would like to leave her a remembrance of him. He dug through his own box and decided on the orange scarf, since the covey loved color, and her more than most. He was unsure of how he'd get it to her, but if he made it to Sunday, maybe he could sneak off the base and see her one last time. He placed the neatly folded scarf with the strings Pluribus had sent. After rinsing the snot and tears from his face, he dressed and walked over to the post office to mail the money home. So we have this convo with him and his friends, just like about what happened, why he got caught, and he can't let anything slip. But he goes through the next few days completely paranoid that any second he is going to be taken in. It's just a foregone conclusion to him. He doesn't even consider that he's getting away with it.
Yep. No, it doesn't even occur to him. And he's telling him.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was saying, so he starts to tell himself that, he needs to go out like a snow. They're at lunch, and an aide from the commander's office comes over and asks him to come to the office. And he's like, well, this is it. This has got to be it, right? So, he says, remember, you're a snow. Let's go out with some dignity. And he gets into the office, and the commander's like, it's been some week for you.
I love the fact that he sees this leather chair, and he's like, well, if I'm going to be executed, at least it's happening in a nice room with leather chairs.
Oh my God. At least I could receive my death sentence with a little class. This man is maniacal. His brain is just working in such a peculiar way. It is it really is something. And the commander is like, I heard you were a really good student, and I'm told you were close friends with Sejanus. And then Coriolanus is like, here it is. Well, let me just get it over with. So he says to the commander, we were more than friends. We were like brothers, thinking that he's leaning into this condemnation that's on its way.
Yeah.
And in response to that, the commander is actually really sympathetic and is like, well, then all I can do is express the capital's sincerest, gratitude for your sacrifice. And both me and Coriolanus were like, wait, what? What's happening? Because it turns out that not only did they get the message, which we knew that's what was happening here, right? But not only did they get the message, but they're taking it like this is Snow proving his loyalty to the Capitol by betraying a known friend.
Yeah.
And it is what we later, find out is sort of like what convinces Gaul that she was right to have picked Snow to be interested in the first place. So yeah, they haven't found the gun, and the Capitol thinks that he's a hero. And there's a little talk about, Sejanus not being a bad, just being confused and conflicted. No, you don't know anything about the murders, but Snow is just like, murders? At the Hob?
The way that he twists over from being like, I'm just going to lean into it, to then, I have no idea what you're even referencing. Murders here?
Right? Like, the mayor's daughter. And then some other fellow? Some guy I heard of, there's maybe another guy involved in that. I don't know too much about it.
I think it's the commander who says, and some other fellow. The mayor's daughter and the commander flipped through some papers. Then he decided not to bother that other fellow. Oh my God, that is pretty damning that it's the commander, man.
Yeah, it's devastating that the commander is just like, oh, they don't even count. Those people don't even count. So yeah, Coriolanus plays this very much like, oh, I had no idea any of this was going. Please do tell me more. The commander says, I don't know about whether the murders in Sejanus are connected, and I don't even care that fucking much, because these people are not worth the trouble. Both the kid who was killed, which we know is Billy, and Mayfair. And he actually says, whoever killed them probably saved me a lot of trouble up the road.
Yeah.
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 That's That's dark.
Grim. Yeah. It really is like, I mean, it's just so revealing. The whole thing is so revealing, and how this guy is also coming into this thinking about how it's benefiting him ultimately. Like the mindset that the people in charge have really does align with his own.
Really doesn't. These people don't matter. Even the mayor's daughter doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Which you think that would be a much bigger deal. But the fact that she was out there running around with rebels and running around with this boy automatically means that she doesn't count anymore.
Yeah.
Which is how that shit goes, unfortunately. But yeah. So there's like conversation about whether they're, how they got the guns, and Snow again is just being like, where would he even get guns from? How would that happen? And it says he was beginning to enjoy himself a bit. Yeah, that
guy,
that line, like, how are you enjoying this? But we know how he's enjoying it. There's the confirmation that he hasn't been caught yet. The guns haven't been found. That he's sort of seemingly safe for just a minute.
Yeah.
But we find out that he's got peacekeepers. The commander has peacekeepers searching all over, everywhere for these weapons. And so then Snow can't really relax as much as he would like to. And then the commander says that Dr. Gall and I have decided to keep your part of Sejanus quiet for your own safety.
I appreciate it.
I bet you fucking do.
Yeah, probably in the hopes that somebody else will at some point confide in you and you can turn them over too. You snitching piece of shit.
And then, in the weirdest thing ever, the conversation sort of wraps up with the commander being like, oh, it's my birthday today.
Oh my God. The way that wraps up, of just like, well, try and enjoy yourself. I was like, what? It's just so strange.
Yep.
And sudden, the way that it just comes to an end.
It's really, really callous, because again, it's like these people that have been murdered are not important. Like the whole, like the bit about Sejanus is wrapped up. He's gone now. Dr. Gall is happy. Snow's a hero. So that's all like wrapped up in a neat little bow. We got the guns out there, but I know we're going to find them. And it's probably just going to lead, in the commander's mind, to some more of this riffraff. So, he doesn't really care about them either. And the fact that they could they could wrap this up with conversation about it being my birthday is so, it's just like the sort of nail in the coffin of like, these people don't matter.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the party we're having tonight. I hope you have a good time. Yeah. And then he goes back to his bunk and everybody is like excited to see him, because everybody is kind of like, you're getting hauled off to the commander's office. And Coriolanus tells them that it was fine. He just wanted to make sure I was okay. And this is what I thought was really interesting. Coriolanus's good news makes everybody else like feel better. Because again, these are people who are like concerned about Snow and like want to make sure he's okay, and then also a little concerned about their own possible suspicion.
Yeah.
So there's such a relief from all parties that this is over. This is done now, and we're safe, and we could just move on.
It's like everybody has the same general sense that Sejanus has of like, if he goes down and we're friends, I may go down. But it's not nearly as acute with them as it is with him.
Yeah.
Of course, part of that is that he actually has done wrong.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
But,
and granted, we're only in Coriolanus's POV, but from the way he's describing the bunk mates, it really doesn't seem like it's as acute with them as it is with him.
No.
They just have sort of like a vague unease about what this could mean for them, where he has a very specific, because like you said, he knows what he did. So he has a very specific concern about being found out.
Yeah.
So they have this fucking party for the commander. There's like a nice meal laid out, which is rare. And there's a band because the commander, quote, gets a kick out of them. So
Such a weird way to say that.
He was thinking about hoping to sneak off on Sunday, but he doesn't have to because Lucy Gray is practically being delivered right to the fucking base. So
yep,
that works out.
So we jump ahead to the actual show, and there is, look, I was saying earlier that this part of the book felt super long. I said this last episode, and that I was surprised we already were here covering it together.
Mm-hmm.
I take it back. Right here, this song, I felt like this went on for like 2 chapters. Was it just me? This was like ages.
No,
it's so long.
It's very long. And there's like all of his reflection in between the song that just makes it go off, makes it go on like even longer. It's like 4 pages.
I just can't, y'all. Like, it's not, I don't mind music being a major part of the show, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like, it's so, and it's like a huge thing in Lucy Gray's life. So of course I get it, but I just feel like there comes a point where I don't know how much it's adding to the whole effect of everything.
Yeah.
And this was there was another mystery I was reading, and it was weird because it was like part of a series, and it was like book 12, and all of a sudden we're like in a mystery that's taking place within a choir, and this author felt like it was necessary to put almost every song and every lyric of each song into the book. And it was just like, what do you really think that anybody is stopping and reading every single word of this? No. Nobody's doing that.
Nobody's doing that.
Even when it's an original, like Tolkien, put it away, bud. Make a separate book of poems or music or whatever. Just stop it. Just rein yourself in just a little bit. So anyway,
this song, You're Pure as the Driven Snow song, this love song from Lucy Gray to Snow, which he is pretty certain that's what's happening here. I mean, she does, like, that line is pretty clear. And it's a love song. It is her declaring her love for him in a very public but yet private way. And he is at one point crying, like his tears are filling his eyes. He's so overcome with emotion, with love for her. He thinks it's love for her. It is him being overcome by her professing her love to him. That's really what's getting to him, is, oh, she really does love me. And that it doesn't matter now. They could hang him, but she would be there knowing that he was still a genuinely good person. Not a monster who cheated or betrayed his friend, but someone who'd really tried to be noble in impossible circumstances. Someone who had risked everything to save her in the games, and someone who'd risked it all again to save her from Mayfair. The hero of her life. That's what he would be.
Calm down.
This is entirely too much. And then there's another verse, and he's like, there it is, because she said 3 and 20. That's 23, the number of tributes she'd survived. And then the mention of trust, and he is just enraptured by this whole performance. He's clutching this box of goodies that he's brought. He's got tears streaming down his face, and he can't wait to see her. And he dips out when her song is over, and Maud Ivory comes on to sing, and they embrace. She is really genuinely fucked up over what happened to Sejanus and sincerely asking if he is okay. And it sucks because you believe that she means all of this, like, and we know who and what he is. And it's so, this is going to sound like I'm judging her because I'm judging her, but guys know I don't really mean it, but it's so embarrassing for her. This is so embarrassing. But it's not her fault, you know?
Yeah.
It's not her fault that he's a fucking psychopath, that she doesn't realize it yet, you know? She's had so little time with him. We've had all this time with him, you know?
Yeah.
She's only spent a very little amount of time with him when you put it all together. He's been on his best behavior with her. You know, he did help her in the arena, even though we all know what that was about. She doesn't know what it was about. So it's not her fault that she has so grossly misjudged his character, because he performed smitten capital boy, surprised by this affection he has for this sort of like district girl. And he performed it really well. So why wouldn't she think it was real?
It's true. Sejanus was fooled. She was fooled. That's the way it works. His friends, quote unquote, are fooled. So, and you know, the whole way that he's thinking about how he's glad she'll live on despite him being gone. It's kind of funny considering how he was just brought in and given a handshake and sent on his way. And he still thinks that just the bell shall toll for him.
Oh yeah, those guns are still out there. And you know, he's I mean, especially considering the way that handkerchief came back and bit him in the ass.
Yeah.
You know, he's, you know, again, he's right to be unnerved by the fact that those guns are not accounted for yet.
Yeah.
And he knows that, well, he doesn't know for a fact, but the fact that they found Spruce still in 12, everything indicates that Spruce never really went that far away. We find out later he really only made it to the cabin. But so they embrace, and oh my God, we find out from Lucy Gray that the mayor is
harassing her,
stalking her, is convinced that Lucy Gray has something to do with the murder of Mayfair, which he's not 100% wrong there.
Not completely, to be fair.
He's like parking outside of their house and just sitting for hours. And the best that she can do is kind of avoid him in District 12, like just try to stay out of his way, which is not really feasible for a long-term plan. So she has decided that she's going to run away, because now the mayor is not just threatening her, but threatening the rest of the covey, and she can't be responsible for that. So she's starting to feel like she just brings bad luck and bad news, you know, between getting reaped and now this situation. So she's just going to leave town to protect the covey and maybe have an opportunity for a life somewhere. And she's thinking about heading north to, I'm assuming, 13, hoping to do what Billy Top and Spruce were hoping that they're telling the truth about the options that are available out there. And then Snow is like, I'm going with you.
Yep.
And she's just like, I can't, I won't, you know, you can't, I won't let you. You'll be risking your life. And he laughs and says, my life consists of wondering how long it will be until they find those guns. We'll go together. And she can't believe her good fortune.
Yep. She thinks this is great.
Yep.
He's taking such a risk.
Yep.
This will be together on the run, caring for one another, ensuring we have each other's backs. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So then she goes back on stage and he gives her the gift, the box with the scarf and the strings from Pluribus, and they kiss again. And he says it's just us again, and that really broke my heart because I know as a reader that it's not just them again. I don't know exactly how it unfolds, but I know it's not this. And she says just us, her face shining with joy, and it is just such a punch in the gut because you know this is about to go really wrong. You just don't know how it's going wrong. And then she sings the Hanging Tree song.
She sings the Hanging Tree.
And he does not like this fucking song.
This might be his song, but she was singing it to Coriolan, his being Billy Topes. Snowlands on Top. Oh, enough of it already. So they bow, they leave the stage, and Coriolanus gets up in the morning and just packs as much as he can into his pockets. He chose 3 photos of his family, the circle of his mother's powder, his father's compass, and hid them among his clothes as well. Just like Ma Plinth did, but that you made fun of. Yet again, sir.
Yep. No reflection on that either. No mention of that. No seeing the parallels. Nothing.
They serve bread pudding at breakfast, which he thinks is a good sign because that is Lucy's favorite. And just as he is like stepping outside and about to do what he needs to take off, he gets stopped and said, "The commander wants to see you." And he gets brought into his office, and Commander Hoff tells him, "Private Snow, let me be the first to congratulate you. You leave for officers' school tomorrow."
Yep.
What do you think when you hit this part in the book?
I said, "Oh." I did. That's exactly what happened. I said, "Oh, okay." So my immediate thought was, "Shit." Well, is he still gonna go with her? Right? That's the first thing you think of. But then I was like, "But the guns, though." Like, and I was thinking, like, what happens if he leaves? Because they don't have the guns yet. He leaves tomorrow, goes back, they find them. He's going to be right there with the peacekeepers on officer school. It's not like he's leaving to go away someplace they can't touch him.
Right.
So my initial thought was, oh shit, he's not going to go now. And then I thought about the guns. It was like, no, he still has to go. And then it turns out that's exactly the train of thought he has, where he's just like, the fucking irony of it all. It's so unfair in his mind. This is so unfair. Dude, you shot and killed somebody.
Yeah.
Granted, like, she was threatening to tell and ruin things, but like, you shot a girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. He can't believe it. He's got a chance to go back where he can distinguish himself and make a life that's worth living. That's so important. A life worth living. Might be a better road to power than the university had even been. And now his DNA is just out there waiting to like show up and ruin everything.
So as he comes to this conclusion, he goes and meets Lucy anyway. He caught a glimpse of Orange and tracked it to a clearing. There she stood, unloading a stack of bundles from a small wagon. His scarf wound in a fetching manner around her head. She ran over and hugged him, and he responded even though it felt too hot for an embrace. The kiss that followed put him in a better mood. His hand went to the orange scarf in her hair. This seems very bright for fugitives. And she says, "Well, I don't want you to lose me. Are you still up for this?" And they have a little chat about like what they're giving up. And he hasn't even considered the things that she is giving up until she starts to talk about them.
Yeah.
Leaving her family behind, leaving her guitar behind,
The fact that the Covey have been told they're not allowed to perform at all anymore. There's a new somebody, a new peacekeeper or a new mayor. I'm trying to remember where it is.
I'm trying to find the spot too.
Too rebellious.
Last night the commander told me not to sing the Hanging Tree
That's
anymore.
What it is.
Too dark, too rebellious. So yeah, they can sing. They just can't sing that.
Yeah, right. I'm sorry. And then Coriolanus says, it is a strange song.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why that made me laugh, but
He can't resist.
he really can't. And there's talk about what the Covey will do without her, and Maud Ivory will be able to take over in a year or two. And this is when it starts to hit him, like you said, that she's actually giving up shit as well, because he's been so fucking focused on himself, what he's
Mm-hmm.
giving up, what he has, what he's lost. That, like, she very rarely enters his mind outside of her in relation to him. Like, he never just thinks about her to just be thinking about her, because she doesn't exist in his imagination outside of her relation to him. Like, people don't have their own lives, their own motivations, their own concerns. Like, if, everything he sees, he only sees, like, the way it's tethered to him. Narcissist, psychopath, I'm not sure which is the right description, but it's all terrible.
So as they continue to walk, they talk about, like, are humans inherently good or not? And sometimes there are tough decisions. I know that. Of course I do. I'm a victor, she said ruefully. It'd be nice in my new life not to have to kill anyone else. I'm with you there. 3 seems enough for one lifetime, and certainly enough for one summer.
He said that shit, and I said, whoa, wait a minute, sir.
She pulled up. Who's the third? What? Ow. She ignored his injury. Person you killed. You said you killed 3 people this summer. Can you get this out? He held out his hand, wiggling the compromised fingernail, hoping to distract her. Let me see. So, Bobbin, Mayfair, who's the third? His mind raced for a plausible explanation. Could he have been involved in a freak accident? A training death? He was cleaning a weapon and it went off by mistake? He decided it was best to make a joke of it. Myself. I killed the old me so I could come with you. She pulled the splinter free. There. Well, I hope old you doesn't haunt new you. We've already got enough ghosts between us. The moment passed, but it had killed the conversation. Neither of them spoke again until the halfway point where they stopped for a breather. So they have just, another couple of hours out here going to the lake, and he is just trying to get in the mindset that he had when they had gone out that Sunday and hung out at the lake. Yeah.
He's trying to, like, psych himself up for the idea of what this life would really look like. And he's like, when they get to the lake, they had gotten far enough into the wilderness that he is, like, starting to be confronted with things like, how are we going to eat? Where are we going to live? What would they do with themselves? Once they figured out, like, where they were going to live and how they were going to eat. And she doesn't have any music, and he doesn't have any school or military or anything. Would they just have a family? This life seems too bleak to condemn a child to. What was there to aspire to once wealth, fame, and power had been eliminated? Was the goal of survival further survival and nothing more?
Yeah.
I mean, I ask myself that all the fucking time. But yeah, so
they eventually stop. They go fishing. She catches 2 fish and he doesn't catch shit. And this was his life now. Digging for worms and being at the mercy of the weather, elemental like an animal. He knew this would be easier if he wasn't such an exceptional person.
Wild.
The best and the brightest humanity had to offer. The youngest to pass the officer candidate test. If he'd been useless and stupid, the loss of civilization would not have hollowed out his insides in this manner. He'd have taken it in stride.
Listen, this made me regret every time I've ever said or thought that, like, oh, I wish I wasn't so, self-aware or smart, then the world would be, because this is awful take, and like that I have uttered words to come anywhere even close to this is such a fucking douche show. It's like, and now I'm embarrassed for fucking me, because this if I were just some poor schlup, then this life might be enough. He says the words, I'm too exceptional for this. I mean, is that what it's like to be ambitious in this way? Is that what, like, people who become Jeff Bezos, is this what their brain is like? How they get to these heights? Like, it's gotta be, right?
It
Like,
must be.
ugh.
Especially when you are surrounded by people that are hyping you up that way as well, which, let's face it, like cis white guys often are. So, but I take exception to you comparing anything you have ever said. It's so not at all the same thing.
Well, thank you
Please,
for that.
Adam.
Thank you. So they go inside to the little cabin. It started to rain, and she's preparing the fish that she caught, and I love that the door is like jammed, and she just fucking throws her hip into it, and it opens. And there's wood in here, and they're sort of like settling in, and he's looking around at this fucking cabin, which should be like, you should be grateful. It's shelter. It's raining, and there's this one cabin that's still standing. Like, you should be fucking happy to be there. And he's looking around like, ugh, my beautiful penthouse that I used to have with marble floors and crystal chandeliers, his rightful home. And now am I going to end up in a cave? Is this fucking raggedy ass cabin the last bit of like civilization I'll ever have? My God.
So he comes in and he shuts the door, and behind the door are the guns.
Yep.
And she is lighting the fire and hasn't noticed quite yet. And then finally, oh, are these the ones they had in the shed? I think they must be. Should we take the guns along? Lucy Gray drew back, rose to her feet, and considered them for a long moment. Rather not. I don't trust them. This will come in handy, though. She pulled out a long knife, turning the blade over in her hand. I think I'll go dig up some Katniss, since we got the fire going anyway. There's a good patch by the lake. I thought they weren't ready. 2 weeks can make a lot of difference. It's still raining. You'll get soaked. She laughed. Well, I'm not made of sugar. In truth, he was happy for a minute alone to think. Mm-hmm. After she left, he lifted the bottom of the burlap bag, and the weapon slid out onto the floor. Here it was, the murder weapon. Not in a capital forensic lab, but here in his hands, in the middle of the wilderness where it posed no threat at all. All he had to do was destroy it, and he would be free from the hangman's noose. Free to go back to the base. Free to go forward to District 2. Free to rejoin the human race without fear. Tears of relief flooded his eyes, and he began to laugh out of sheer joy. How would he do it? Burn it in a bonfire? Disassemble it and scatter the parts to the four winds? Throw it in the lake? No. Wait. Lucy Gray. No matter. She would never tell. She wouldn't be thrilled when he told her there had been a change of plans, that he was returning to the Peacekeepers and heading to District 2 tomorrow at dawn, essentially leaving her to her fate. Still, she'd never rat him out. It wasn't her style, and it would implicate her in the murders as well. It would mean she would wind up dead. And as the Hunger Games had shown, Lucy Gray possessed an extraordinary talent for self-preservation. Plus, she loved him. She'd said so last night in the song. Even more, she trusted him. Although, if he ditched her in the woods to claw out an existence alone, no doubt she would consider that a breach of faith. He had to think of just the right way to break the news. But what would that be? I love you deeply, but I love officer school more. That wasn't going to go over well. And he did love her. He did. It was just that only a few hours into his new life in the wilderness, he knew he hated it. The heat and the worms and those birds yakking nonstop. She was certainly taking a long time with those potatoes. So,
yeah,
he goes out there.
Yeah.
And he can't find her.
Yep. And he goes outside with the gun.
Mm-hmm.
And thinks to himself, I should put it down, but doesn't.
Nope.
And he realizes as he's looking for her at this beginning, at the very early part of him going outside, like calling for her and she's not answering, he starts thinking, she got it. She figured out Sejanus was the third person.
Mm-hmm.
She's
the last living witness.
Yeah, that she wouldn't have to know anything about what he did as far as the recording of and setting Sejanus up. All she knows is that he'd been Sejanus's confidant, and that Sejanus was a rebel, and that Coriolanus was a defender of the capital. But still, to think that he'd kill her, which is him sort of judging her for thinking that he would kill her while he's thinking about killing her.
How dare you accuse me of the true things that I am guilty of?
Mm-hmm. And he looks down at the loaded gun in his hands. Yeah, as if he were hunting her. It looks bad coming after her armed. But he wasn't really going to kill her. Just talk to her and made sure she saw sense. Put the gun down. All she has is a knife. A big knife, though. Best he can do is slide the gun or sling the gun onto his back. And then he starts calling for her. Are you okay? You're scaring me. Where are you? And then
all she'd have to say, I understand. I'll go on alone.
Mm-hmm.
She knew he wouldn't believe her.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to talk to you, he shouted. What was her plan? To hide till he grew tired and went back to the base and then sneak back home? It didn't work for him. Even with the murder weapon gone, she'd still be dangerous. What if she went back to 12 now and the mayor succeeded in getting her arrested? What if they interrogated or even tortured her? The story would come out. She hadn't killed anyone. He had. His word against hers. Even if they didn't believe her, his reputation would be destroyed. Still no sign of her.
Their romance would be revealed.
Right.
That's the important part there. Mm-hmm.
She was giving him no choice but to hunt her down in the woods.
No choice again. No choice.
Mm-hmm.
You guys,
there is this moment. He felt a bit guilty frightening her this way. What was she doing? Quivering in the bushes while she tried to suppress her sobs? The idea of life without him must be breaking her heart.
Listen, this is some of the wildest shit I have read in a minute. First of all, how quickly this escalates.
Mm-hmm.
Right? His like we're all like born with like they say we're all born with like a built-in sense of self-preservation. But his is on like 1,000 all the time. It never rests. And that he goes like, it's so fucking fast. Her going from being the love of his life, his one and only love, he says earlier, to someone that he needs to put down because they pose a threat to him. So far, like, I believe that she has put, 2 and 2 together here, but he doesn't know that for sure. And he's convinced, like, I don't know, just the fact that he can, like, because it was never really love. That's how. Like, if it was really love, then even with this fear that she could hurt him, if there was really a love there, he couldn't flip that switch so fast.
Yeah.
So he's hunting her in the woods now. This is what we're doing after all this whole book. That's what we're doing now. He's hunting her in the woods with the gun that he's already killed somebody with. A patch of orange caught his eye and he smiled. I don't want you to lose me, she had said. And he hadn't. He's all fucking satisfied. That's so gross, you guys. Do you understand that he would take what? Oh, good Lord, it's so bad. But He says that the orange scarf laid across some briars where it had apparently blown loose and snagged as she fled. But it confirmed he was on the right track, and he went to retrieve it, and he gets
Maybe
bit by
he'd keep it after all. That's one of my favorite.
Oh
like,
my
little-
god,
like,
that's
he
right.
gave this as a gift, and now he's like, yeah, I think I'll just take this back and like keep
Yeah,
it.
which he does
Like-
with the fucking money to Tigress.
Does
Like,
he?
Yes,
He can take that
girl.
back.
Yes, he sneaks it. He intercepts the mail, and even after he's getting money from the plinths and shit, it says he got home and he intercepted the mail.
Right.
'cause he
Okay,
needed-
I forgot about that later on. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But this motherfucker is a real motherfucker. Like, it's just like
Mhm.
Jesus Christ. Like, I mean, like, for him to say the thing about the scarf and then later to do his own family like that when he didn't even need it, he didn't need, like, just
Yeah.
But so he gets bit by a snake, and immediately is like, she did that to me.
Mm-hmm.
She set me up. She can control. She always knows where to find snakes, Maud Ivory had said. He was beginning to sympathize with Billy Talk. I beg
Taupe.
your fucking Taupe. I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah. Lucy Gray had tried to kill him? Like, exclamation point. Sir, you for some reason can't put your gun down. What's up? Just asking questions.
You are in the woods in the rain and you stepped on a snake. I mean, that's a thing.
It was his arm.
Oh, his arm. That's right.
So
that's
it's
right.
like he reached out for the scarf. I fully think she did put that.
Yeah,
snake in.
yeah.
I think it's true, but
I forgot it was his arm. You're right. That does change it. Oh my God, how funny is that?
she wasn't so easy to track now, and he realized the earlier clues had been left to lead him directly to the snake. But she couldn't be that far away. She'd want to know if the thing killed him, or if she should form another plan of attack. Maybe she hoped he'd pass out so she could cut his throat with a long knife. Trying to quiet his panting, he moved deeper into the woods, gently pushing the branches back with the nose of his rifle, but it was impossible to discern her whereabouts. So he's wondering where could she have gone, and then he thinks, oh, she doubled back to the cabin to get another one of the guns. And he's like listening, and he thinks he hears something and heads toward it. A flock of birds squawked as they took to the air, and he heard a faint cry. Got you, he thought. He crashed through the woods after her, branches and thorns catching his clothes and scratching his face. There was no trace of her. Lucy Gray, he said in his normal voice. Lucy Gray, it's not too late to work something out. Of course it was, but he owed her nothing. Certainly not the truth.
Jesus Christ.
Lucy Gray, won't you talk to me? And she starts singing. I don't know why she's singing. Why would you do this? Just stay hidden. What are you doing?
I just assumed that that it was the birds, but it was her singing it first, because then the birds pick up the song and they're like all over the place, so it will make it like impossible to maybe hear her, any noise she's making, as she's moving along. So that's actually, it's really actually pretty smart. And so now he's getting really like worked up. He's like screaming her name, calls her clever, devious, and deadly.
He turned this way and that, and finally blasted the woods in a full circle,
now he's
going
just
around
a
and
shooter.
around until his bullets were spent. I am going to need you to get a hold of yourself, sir. Like, I already do not condone you going after this girl in this way, but now you're just like, it's just like he's a fucking 1920s gangster with a fucking Tommy gun. It's just, have a little bit of focus.
Nope. And like, I love that that it's the hanging tree, because that song is so upsetting to him, and then these birds are so upsetting to him, and they're like screaming, and now every bird is screaming because he just set off like 50 rounds or whatever the fuck. And it says, nature gone mad, genes gone bad, chaos. He had to get out of there. His arm had begun to swell. He had to get back to the base. And his arm starts to tingle. He gets kind of like a little disoriented because he's starting to panic.
Mm-hmm.
He takes the gun into the lake and dumps it. Yeah. And it says, what of the supplies that they had left behind? Should he drown those as well? No point. Either she was dead and the cubby would find them, or she was alive and she would hopefully use them to escape. He throws the fish into the fire, leaves everything behind, and it starts to pour. And he's realizing that as he's making his way back, that the rain is going to wash away any trace of them being in the woods. He's watching his footprints disappear right before his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And all he's focused on is, you got to get back to the base. You got to get back to the base. And he's a little turned around, and then he remembers he has his father's compass, which really is starting to take it's doing a lot of heavy lifting in these last chapters, this compass. So yeah, he makes it back to the base. He's got the, what does it say here about his DNA? Oh, wishing he'd brought along the jug of water, because he vaguely realized his DNA would be on that too. But who cared? The jug was not a murder weapon. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
And he's wondering about, like, if there was a body. It doesn't even call her by name. If there was a body, he could not even confirm if he'd hit her. Yeah, he's worried about if they found her body, would they report it to Covey? And he assumes that they wouldn't want attention brought to it.
The whole, like, this whole scene isn't at all conclusive that she has been killed.
Nope.
And obviously this is meant to parallel the Lucy Gray poem that was earlier in the book, and how you're uncertain about what could have happened to her as well.
He like literally says that at one point.
Yeah.
Like calls her like a ghost girl, just like in a song or something like that.
But it felt for me like there wasn't even enough of a hint that she was dead to consider it. I never ever thought she was actually dead. Did you? How did you like react to this? Like, what was your gut?
I didn't think that she was dead either.
Okay. So it's not just me.
No. And then we find out that the snake isn't even poisonous or not venomous.
Right? I forgot about that. Yeah.
So his whole like hysterics about, she tried to kill me. Like, and then like all the like dizziness that he was feeling and all that shit was all just in his head. Because he was fucking freaking out and panicking.
Oh, God. A snake appeared out of nowhere to bite him. The doctor nodded. The rain brings them out. Does it? Coriolanus thought his story would have been challenged, or at least met with skepticism. The doctor did not seem suspicious. Did you get a look at it? Not really. It was raining and it moved fast. Am I going to die? Hardly. It wasn't even venomous. See the teeth marks? No fangs. Going to be sore for a few days, though. Are you sure? I threw up and I couldn't think straight. Well, panic can do that. Probably leave a scar. I swear to God, the fact that he thinks good remind me to be more careful. Sir, you decided to murder her. Do you remember any of this? No, he does not.
No, not at all. Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. So yeah, he
like, the fact that this, again, you guys, he is like, of course they're going to be suspicious of my story. They're going to push back. Why would they, dude? Why do you think everybody is suspicious of you?
Because you know you're a suspicious ass motherfucker that's up to no good.
Yeah.
That's what that
That's
is.
what it is.
I do like the idea, and I'm not saying that I would know this, but the way the doctor is just like, yeah, just look at the fucking bite mark. There's no fangs. Like if he had like an ounce of like knowledge about that sort of thing, he could have calmed himself and known right then in real time. But he doesn't. And the fact that he gets himself so worked up that he like throws up is just really funny to me.
Hilarious.
So he goes back to his room, and I just want to mention that he is going through his pockets, and he has ruined his mother's powder. The photos are ruined. So he throws them all in the trash. The only thing that actually makes it back from this adventure is his father's compass. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like I said, it's doing a lot of work.
The photos too, like, I think this is all gotta be, right? This is I'm leaving the rest of my family, the warmth, the good people behind, and I'm only taking my cues from Daddy, who everybody said was a shit.
Yep. That's 100% what this is.
A literal compass.
Yep. I told you. It's doing a lot of heavy lifting. So then he also takes Sejanus's locker and with the plans that he'll mail it to the Plinths with a note of condolence, because that would be what's appropriate as your best friend. But also, maybe the cookies would keep coming. Maybe the cookies would, sir.
Literally and figuratively.
Like, even in this heightened moment of like what he's been through, and all this has happened, and by the time he's back in his room, it's only like the middle of the day. Like, all of this has happened from like very early in the morning till about mid-noon, mid-afternoon. And he's already thinking about how keeping the Plinths on his like good side, or staying on the good side of the Plinths rather, is going to be beneficial for him.
Yeah.
You were just an hour ago or 2 hours ago hunting your girlfriend with a rifle. And now you're already calculating what you're going to do to set yourself up for your new life, and putting people in place that you can use that can be of service to you. So his bunkmates also think he's swell. So they're like sad to see him go, but they're proud of him. And he gets on this hovercraft headed for District 2, and it says, things improved immediately. The plush seat, the attendant, the beverage selection. It's not luxurious, but it's a far cry from the train. Comforted by comfort. He leaned his head back or something, however the rest of that sentence goes. I love that. Comforted by comfort.
I am guilty as charged.
But there's like a different, well, I don't know. I don't want to speak for you, but there's like comfort that's cozy, which is what I think of for you when you generally are talking about comfort. And then there are like the comforts with like a capital C, which is what like he's talking about,
True.
And it's the leather seat in the commander's office all over again. Like, he just has such an idea of what he's worth. Oh my goodness.
Owen dropped something in the hall.
Oh, okay. He's got such a set idea of what he's entitled to and what the standards and conditions of everything that he touches should be, right?
Yep.
Everything should be the finest of finery. Everything should be plush leather and top shelf liquor and the best clothes. Like, everything is just like, it's got to be the best of the best, or it's like, why even bother?
Very much.
And I know that like there's not maybe anything. I was about to say there's not anything inherently wrong with that, but at what cost? Though? Yeah, that becomes the question. Who do you have to take from in order to meet those standards?
Right?
Like, what do you have to do to get there? Who do you have to exploit? Who do you have to cheat? Who do you have to turn in like a Sejanus? Who do you have to hunt and excise from your life like he did with Lucy Gray? You
Yeah.
know, who do you have to exploit and manipulate like he did with Sejanus and Sejanus' mother, and later when we find out father. Yeah.
Yeah. So then he is about to get up. The attendant says, "Welcome to the Capitol." And he's like, "Wait, what? I'm supposed to go to 2." And the attendant says, "No, we were told to drop you off here." So he gets out of the plane. There had been a mistake, or had there? What if they had somehow linked him to the murders? Maybe Lucy Gray had returned and accused him, and they needed to question him. Sir, calm down.
His heart gave a little jump. As
She's expecting you in the lab.
Yep.
He held on to the thin hope that she meant Dr. K, not Dr. Gall. But his old nemesis waved to him from across the lab as he stepped off the elevator. Why was he here? Was he going to end up in one of her cages? As he crossed to her, he saw her drop a live baby mouse into a tank of golden snakes. She gives him the bowl of rodents. I swear to God. I got your letter and your jabberjay. Too bad about young Plinth. Although, is it really? Anyway, I was pleased to see you were continuing your studies in 12. Oh my God.
Yeah. Like, wow.
Is it really?
Fucking wow.
This woman. Oh my God.
Anyway.
Did you think about the Hunger Games? The day we met, Koska asked you what their purpose were, and you gave the stock answer: to punish the districts. Would you say that now? I'd elaborate on it. They're not just to punish the districts. They're part of the eternal war. Each one is its own battle, one we can hold in the palm of our hand instead of waging a real war that could get out of our control.
And they're a reminder of what we did to each other, what we have the potential to do again because of who we are, he says. And who are we? Did you determine, she asks. Creatures who need the capital to survive. But he couldn't help getting in a dig. It's all pointless, though, you know. Nobody's even fucking watching it, except for the reaping. We didn't even have a working TV on the base. And she says, while this could be a problem in the future, it's a blessing this year because I've had to erase the whole mess.
Yeah.
This really pissed me off.
Which part?
The fact that
narratively,
it pissed me off because we just went through all of this. Lucy Gray went through all of this, and her story is going to be completely erased.
Yep.
And then the stories of the other students that were involved, the ones who died, Sejanus, like all of it is just going to be erased. Though she has kept a copy for her own pleasure to view at her leisure because she's a fucking weirdo. But yeah, this it just made everything that we just had gone through. It just, I know it's not meaningless because they extract the meaning they want to from it, you know, and learn the lessons that they want to use moving forward.
Yeah.
But it really just is like a slap in the face. It really did feel like a slap in the face.
Yep.
Never to be aired again. Every last copy. And he's glad because it's one more way to eliminate Lucy Gray from the world. He doesn't just say from my life or anything, from the world.
Mm-hmm.
As though she was nothing. She never existed.
So when she then is like, I hear you learned a lot on your summer vacay. He's like, vacay? And she's like, yeah, I thought that this would be more educational than staying here and combing your curls. You don't think I've invested all this time in you to hand you off to those imbeciles in the districts, do you? I don't understand. I was told I've ordered you an honorable discharge effective immediately. You're to study under me at the university. In the capital? She dropped one last mouse into the tank. Classes start Thursday.
I want to mention that when she's talking about the things that they're going to keep and the things they're going to throw away, they're going to throw away the mentor program. They should have never let the students get mixed up in it. They're going to keep the betting, and they're going to keep Flickerman.
That's a choice, I guess. And she is when he says, like, you've got to make this mandatory viewing somehow because they're never going to tune into this by choice. It's way too fucking depressing. And she's like, oh, well, we'll have to figure out how to do that. I guess you have learned a lot in your time.
Yep. And to find out what, we've been learning throughout this whole book, the very specific things that he's responsible for that we remember from the first books. Yeah. It is, it's just weird to see it unfold in this way. Like before this little adventure, if they hadn't had this adventure, if they hadn't had this misstep with the games and the students and Snow getting so involved, how different would Panem be? Like where would it have gone? Would they have continued with the Hunger Games? Would they have fizzled out? Like Dr. Gall seems hell bent on making sure they don't fizzle out, but she wasn't having a lot of success. Which is funny because we find out in the epilogue, we finally get like the skinny on what happened with Dean Highbottom and Snow's father and how the games came about. But the fact that she needs to farm ideas from these students, the ones that she has like a keen eye for, the ones that show a spark of like really getting it, it makes me question how successful Gall would be if she didn't have those people to get like pluck ideas from, Yeah.
This the epilogue, he looked gorgeous in his new suit, especially with the return of his curls, and his stint as peacekeeper had given him a certain cachet.
Yes.
Okay. I hate that word. Every time I have to stop and be like, wait. His fingers stroked his butter-soft leather satchel, a back-to-school gift from the Plinths. He still tripped over what to call them. Ma was easy enough, but it didn't suit to call Strabo Plinth his father, so he used Sir a lot. It wasn't as if they'd adopted him. He'd been too old at 18. Being designated an heir worked better for him anyway. He'd never give up the name Snow, not even for a munitions empire.
He just went and stole Sejanus' whole life.
Mm-hmm.
The life that Sejanus, in his mind, didn't deserve and didn't appreciate enough anyway.
Yep. Strabo had put it simply. My wife needs something to live for. So do I, for that matter. You've lost your parents, we've lost our son. I was thinking perhaps we could work something out. He'd bought the Snows' apartment so they didn't have to move, and the Doolittles below it for himself and Ma. There was talk of renovation, of building a spiral staircase and perhaps a private elevator to connect the two, but there was no rush. Ma already came by daily to help with the grandmam, who'd resigned herself to having a new maid.
Wild.
And she and Tigris got on swimmingly. The Plinths paid for everything now. The taxes on the apartment, his tuition, the cook. They gave him a generous allowance as well. This was helpful because although he'd intercepted and pocketed the envelope of money he'd sent Tigris from District 12, university life was expensive when done right. Strabo never questioned his expenditures or nitpicked over a few new additions to his wardrobe, and he seemed pleased when Snow asked for advice. They were surprisingly compatible. At times, he almost forgot old Plinth was district. Almost.
After everything these people are doing, he's still putting himself above them because he's capital in their district. And Jesus Christ, you guys.
So they're going to be meeting up for a celebratory sort of memorial dinner for Sejanus's, what would have been his 19th birthday. And he has the box from Sejanus' locker that he is going to give them, but he has one more thing to do. He hadn't bothered to make an appointment, preferring to drop in unexpectedly. The students had been let out an hour ago, and his footsteps rang in the hallways. Dean Highbottom's secretary's desk was empty, so he crossed the dean's office and tapped on the door. Well, to what do I owe this honor? I was hoping to recover my mother's compact, since you should have no further need of it. Is that all? No. I'm returning Sejanus' personal effects to his parents tonight. I'm not sure what to do with this. He emptied the contents onto the desk and picked up the framed diploma. I didn't think you'd want it floating around out there. An academy diploma awarded to a traitor. You're very conscientious. That's my peacekeeper training. I think his parents will prefer this anyway. They both stared at the remains of Sejanus' life. Then he swept the 3 medicine bottles into Dean Highbottom's trash can. The fewer bad memories, the better. So, you grew a heart in the districts? Not in the districts, in the Hunger Games. I have you to thank for that. After all, you're responsible for them. Oh, I think half the credit for that goes to your father. How do you mean? I thought the Hunger Games were your idea. For Dr. Gall's class, which I was failing, since my loathing of her made participation impossible, we paired off for the final project, so I was with my best friend, Crassus. The assignment was to create a punishment for one's enemies so extreme that they would never be allowed to forget how they had wronged you. It was like a puzzle, which I excel at, and like all good creations, absurdly simple at its core. The evilest impulse, cleverly packaged into a sporting event, an entertainment. I was drunk, and your father got me drunker still, playing on my vanity as I fleshed the thing out, assuring me it was just a private joke. The next morning I awoke, horrified by what I'd made, meaning to rip it to shreds, but it was too late. Without my permission, your father had given it to Dr. Gall. He wanted the grade, you see. I never forgave him. He's dead. But she isn't. It was never meant to be anything more than theoretical. And who but the vilest monster would stage it? After the war, she pulled my proposal out, and me with it, introducing me to Panem as the architect of the Hunger Games. That night I tried morphiling for the first time. I thought the thing would die out. It was so ghastly. It didn't. Dr. Gall took it and ran, and she has dragged me along with it for the last 10 years.
Well, it certainly supports her view of humanity, so Snow said, especially using the children. Because we credit them with innocence. And if even the most innocent among us turn to killers in the Hunger Games, what does that say? That our essential nature is violent.
Self-destructive, Dean Highbottom murmured.
This Dean, we had talked earlier in the book about, like, did the Hunger Games creation drive him to the morphling? And yeah, it has. But the idea that Dr. Gall has got him sort of, is holding him prisoner in his, this nightmare that he created. And like now he's just stuck living in it.
Yeah.
That is horrible. It is like just it's almost beyond description how terrible that is. I mean, the games themselves are also terrible beyond description. But the fact that this clever young man who was able to come up with this idea that was just supposed to be between him and a trusted friend, a best friend. And then he was betrayed and, by his best friend. And then we have Coriolanus, who then betrayed his supposed best friend in a very, because what was to be gained was more important than the friend or the friendship. It really sounds like Coriolanus's father also lacked the ability to have a true friendship with anyone. Only sees people as in means to an end. It begs the question, which we don't get any answers to, we never really did, but like it makes me wonder about Coriolanus's parents and their marriage. Like,
Yeah.
what was there anything? Was there ever anything really there? Because Snow starts. Well, it comes up in a minute, but he starts reflecting on who he would marry if he were to marry,
Mm-hmm.
and it says that he'd have to choose somebody who was incapable of swaying his heart, maybe even someone he hated, so that they could never manipulate him again. And I don't know if that is also similar to what his father did,
That's interesting. I hadn't thought of that.
But there's really like not much to go on there. But yeah, the thing that's happening here with High Bottom, which we get to reveal at the last minute, but which I didn't clock, like when he puts all the bottles in the trash, like honest to God, I just wasn't even paying attention. Like it didn't. Like, of course, Dean Highbottom, he's a drug addict. He's going to pull those bottles out of the trash the minute Coriolanus leaves the room. But I wish I could say, oh, I peeped that and was wondering what was going to happen next. But I didn't. Did you? When you first read it?
I honestly can't remember. I don't think I did, because usually if I clock something like that, I tend to remember. So I think I was just very confused, because pushing all the drugs off I was like, why do you give a shit? You don't like this guy. So I had a moment of like just sheer confusion and then let it go. And I don't think that I ever really put anything together there.
Yeah.
But
the way that he mixes the bottles up with like the diploma that's going in the trash and whatever else that was in the box that's not going home. But then the dean asks him, he says that like moths to a flame again, that line again.
Yeah.
And then it says, but of course you're testing me. You know her far better than I do, which is what I think Snow says to Dean Highbottom. And Highbottom is like, I'm not so sure. And then he says, so what did she say when you told her you were leaving? And fucking Coriolanus is like, Dr. Gall? And the dean is like, you fucking girl. Dude, keep up. Like, what are you talking? Like, why aren't you thinking? Why isn't that who first popped in your head? When I say, what did she say when you told her you were leaving? And your brain doesn't immediately go to the love of your life. That's also very telling.
Yep.
That she's just not even on his radar in any real capacity.
His response is, I expect we were both a little sad. Which is just such a weird, like, that's what you decided to say? Really? That's it? Like, it's just so inadequate.
It's nothing.
Yeah.
It's nothing. It's a bunch of nothing. So he leaves, says he has to go. I need to go oversee the movers. And Dean Highbottom is like, all right, then back to your penthouse. And then it says that Snow didn't really want to talk about Lucy Gray with anybody. Smiley had sent him a letter mentioning her disappearance. Everybody thought the mayor had killed her, but they couldn't prove it. As to the Covey, a new commander had replaced Hoff, and his first move had been to outlaw the shows. That's why I got confused.
Okay.
Shows get outlawed here because there's a new commander.
Right.
Because music caused trouble. And Snow is like, yes, it certainly does. Lucy Gray's fate was a mystery, just like the little girl who shared her name in that maddening song. Was she alive? Was she dead? Was she a ghost who haunted the wilderness? Perhaps no one would ever really know. No matter. No matter. Snow had been the ruination of them both. Both the girl in the song and the literal woman.
Get it?
Oh, we're working real hard this last page and a half.
Oh my God.
He says she could fly around District 12 all she liked, but she and her Mockingjays could never harm him again. Sometimes he would remember a moment of sweetness and almost wish things had ended differently, but it never would have worked out between them anyway. They were just too different. And he didn't like love the way it had made him feel stupid and vulnerable. And this is when he starts to think about what he would do if he got married, who he would like to marry. And then he picks Livia Cardew. It says she would be perfect. He imagined the two of them, the president and his first lady. He's president now in his imagination. He is back on track to the beginning of the book. Back on track.
So she was the one who had the male tribute from District 1. Facet is allegedly the name. I'm not sure if this is only in the movie that his name is Facet, because I don't remember that name. But she had accused him of cheating when he went to visit Lucy at the train, and said that he should be disqualified.
Right, that's who that is. He doesn't even.
What?
I'm just thinking about the I can't even call it a 180 because he was this way the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
But it's just the speed in which this happens. The end of his relationship with Lucy Gray, the way it ends, him being back in the Capitol in good graces, his ascension, the getting the plinths behind him, his life being back in order the way he wants it to be, the way he always thought it deserved to be, that there's no consequences for anything that he did.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't, you can't even say it cost him Lucy Gray because that's not even a real loss to him.
Yeah.
It is just a hell of a way to end a story. I guess it had to end this way in order for him to grow up and become the President Snow that we all know exists. So, but yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is the part that I really it kind of ruined the book for me, because I know that he is going to turn out to be a piece of shit. He has been. We are heading there. It's fine. Mm-hmm. But it's weird because then she draws out all of these different parts of the story too much, and then has this about face with him in 5 minutes.
Yep.
The reading out loud from the audiobook. It feels like it's 5 minutes and he has just absolutely flipped. And I understand that it's the way it's supposed to have gone down, but there is it doesn't feel fleshed out nearly enough to me. Mm-hmm. And it's, I think, deeply unsatisfying that, and I understand we're seeing this only from his perspective. We're supposed to be doing this whole parallel with Lucy Gray and the poem, but I believe we are left to assume, this is what I assume, is that once Lucy hears him say, "I killed 3 people," she immediately is aware. What do you think?
I think that you mean aware that he killed Sejanus?
That he killed Sejanus, yeah. That he turned him in.
I think you're right. But I don't think that would have been a deal breaker for her. Maybe it would have. It doesn't seem it doesn't seem like she makes a turn until they find the guns. Is when maybe that's just when she realizes that she's in danger. So there's a difference between realizing that he means Sejanus and putting that together, and then maybe thinking she has time to figure something out about what she's going to do. Mm-hmm. And then they find the guns and she realizes there's no time to figure out anything. She's got to go, and she's got to go now.
That's my impression, is that as soon as she saw them, because that was like one of the things that he said.
He says it right
before
to
they
her.
left was
Mhm.
like, if anybody finds those, I'm screwed.
So
Like,
why not go?
you know,
Yeah, I don't have any life left. I just, because she's like, you can't go. You risk your whole life. And he's like, I don't have a life. What life? I don't have a life.
yeah.
The minute he sees those guns, he knows he has an opportunity to have the life that he wants, and she knows
Mhm.
that as well. Now, what I would question, though, and this is going to sound like a dumb question, but for Lucy Gray to, I guess, let me see, what am I trying to say? Sorry, you guys. I guess what we're supposed to understand, because it happened so fucking fast.
Mm-hmm.
We're supposed to understand that she realizes that she believed that their relationship, Snow and Sejanus, was real. And when she understands that Snow, even though he performed like that was a real friendship, he's responsible for Sejanus's death, then maybe that's what makes her realize that what they have is also not real. Because
okay,
what I'm trying to get at is how she goes to really believing and understanding that he would kill her to get this life that he wants. When she had been so certain that what they had was real just like 20 minutes ago.
Right.
So like I'm trying to imagine, like, if I suddenly realized that the person that I thought I was in love with, who I thought loved me, is somehow complicit in the death of what I thought was their best friend, then I would think, as being in love with somebody, my brain would want to go into defending it and explaining it. Like, there's got to be something I don't understand. There's got to be, he had to have had a good reason. There must be something that was going on that I didn't know about, because I'm in love with this person. So I don't want to jump to those conclusions.
Sure.
I want an opportunity to find out, like,
to give them a chance to explain
something, because I love you, and I don't want that. I don't want my worst instinct about you to be true. You know what I mean? Because we're not rational, and she doesn't seem like that happens at all.
Yeah.
And so for me, that part feels also like a 180 that's not fleshed out enough. Like she, you know what I mean? Like,
yep.
So I don't know, but so the ending is we find out that he poisoned the morphling bottle with rat poison, knowing good and well that the dean would go for it the minute that he left the room. And it says, although he couldn't help hoping that as the dean drew his final breath, he'd realize what so many others had realized when they challenged him, what all of Panem would know one day, what was inevitable: Snow lands on top. And that is how it ends.
There's this you imagine the two of them, the president and his first lady, presiding over the Hunger Games a few years from now. He'd continue the games, of course, when he ruled Panem. People would call him a tyrant, iron-fisted and cruel. But at least he would ensure survival for survival's sake, giving them a chance to evolve. What else could humanity hope for? Really, it should thank him.
Listen, he just said 2 pages ago that survival for survival's sake wasn't enough.
Yep, he sure did. Yeah, I find so much of this book so compelling, and then it just really felt like this was so rushed, especially in light of how drawn out the rest of it felt.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really the thing. The pacing on this is all over the place at the end. The first half feels quite solid, and it really seemed like she just had to get to a certain point that she had pre-designated. But like at the end, he has to have betrayed people. He has to have almost killed the girl he loved. He has to poison somebody. He has to fully have turned the corner,
He's got to hate the Mockingjays, especially. He's got to hate that one song, especially. Yeah.
It just feels so forced and false to me. And
and we don't
silly.
we
Like,
don't even find out, like, the epilogue is like, I'm not sure how much time has passed, but not a significant amount of time, because they're well past 18 when they're at the Peacekeepers, and now it's time for the 19th birthday of Sejanus. But so it's been a couple months, but the family is living all happily together. And one of the things I had really wanted to know was, like, what happened with Tigress,
right.
and we don't get anything about that. So we still don't know what that falling out was about. I imagine at some point she could have just become too embarrassing to him, as in some way, maybe. I don't know. But because they didn't tell me anything, so I have no idea, like, what that is about. So I was
that is the
disappointed
frustration
in that.
for me as well. I was really invested in Tigress.
I was too.
And I was just super and that's why I've mentioned, like, I would really like a prequel from her perspective, somebody who is on the fringes of the main characters' lives and has interacted with them, but has their own whole thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it was Cam who left a comment in the Facebook group that was like, I'm not really that interested in a prequel with Tigress because I feel like what happens with her seems kind of obvious. And I meant to reply and I forgot, but Cam, what do you think happened? Because I don't feel like it's obvious. I genuinely don't. I feel like there could be a number of ways that this went.
Yeah, I mean, we know that Tigress becomes a stylist and becomes very involved in the game. So you have to imagine that her cousin helped put her in that position. Maybe her exposure to the tributes over time wears her down and she ends up becoming sort of like a Senna type person. But doesn't do anything blatant enough to be, like, charged with treason or anything, right? But enough to where she's shamed, or maybe she gets caught, but because her cousin is so powerful, he covers for her because he wants to protect the name Snow,
or he tricks her out. We have all that talk about sex work at the beginning, and I was maybe that's what it is. He acts as if this is so abhorrent to him, but then eventually we know the way that he is treating victors later as
that's
commodities,
Yeah. So I was bummed out that we don't, like, get a little bit more about that. I was thinking that the epilogue would be a little bit further in the future to sort of tie up some of those other loose ends. But yeah, it just, I don't know. I agree about the pacing. By the time he becomes a peacekeeper and we get into that part of the story, everything just is moving really, really fast.
Yeah.
Except for the times where we have, like, 5 pages of song.
Right. Like, look, y'all know that I have a hard time anyway with, like, musicals and stuff. So I'm a little bit, like, worried about the movie. I won't lie about, like, how it's going to come across. It may be really well done. It may work in the film much better than it works in a book. I don't know.
I generally, because I don't have quite the same aversion that you have, so I will probably enjoy them more in the movie than I did in the book.
Yeah.
Because I generally like musical performances and don't mind them. So, but it can get a bit tedious. So I hope that they don't necessarily do each one like a full out number. You know what I mean? But I'm looking forward to the movie, just to see what this looks like on screen.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to some certain performances, like you told me, who plays Dr. Gall. So I really want to see what Viola Davis does with this.
That is the part I'm looking forward to the most.
Yeah, that's really pretty much what I'm looking forward to. I'm curious what Snow will be like on screen. I don't have any particular actor pictured. I don't know, like, where they're going, who it's going to be. I'm assuming it's somebody that I don't really know.
It's somebody that I didn't recognize.
Yeah, I just got a feeling like they're going to do a thing where it's not going to be like the Lucy Gray character and the younger people, Sejanus. I expect them to be actors that I don't know really well.
Well, Lucy Gray, I already had told you who they cast for her.
I forgot already.
Yeah, I won't remind you.
Is it somebody
really
that
anyway?
Was it someone I knew?
I think it was somebody that you knew. No.
Okay.
So
all right. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to the movie. I want to see what they do. I want to see too what changes they make, and maybe some of our criticisms are addressed. Some of the pacing stuff is addressed, right? And maybe it gets
that'd be cool.
Because what they're going to have to do is we can't have a whole movie in Snow's POV. We're going to run into the same thing we did with Katniss, right? So they're going to have to give Lucy Gray more to do, more to say. We're going to have to spend a little bit more time with her, and maybe that will help, some of the parts that fell kind of flat. So in a weird turn of events, I'm actually hoping the movie compensates for some of the shortcomings of the book. And usually we're concerned that the movie is going to not do the book justice. Mm-hmm. I'm actually hoping that the movie tells a story that the book didn't really land. So,
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing that's sort of keeping me from being too I'm mostly nervous about the music, but in terms of the story, I feel like I'm going into it with such, I don't want to say such a low opinion of the book, but so much frustration with the book that I am way more open to them making changes on this than I was on any of the others.
Yeah, yeah.
Probably than I was on any other book that has been adapted to the screen, period,
Yeah. This almost feels like I had to write this book so that they could make the movie.
Yeah.
You didn't really need to make it a book, though. Y'all could have just made the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been fine. It would have been fucking fine.
They can't miss the chance to make money in two different mediums.
I guess
they
you're
gotta,
right.
They gotta do it. It's out of there. They had no choice.
No choice.
As Snow would probably say. But what choice did we have? None. None at all.
We are but puppets.
So, and this is pretty much what I was expecting when we got to the end. I was like, my prediction is that RoShawn will be pretty into the beginning of this book, and then we're going to get to the end, and she's going to be mad. That is just how I also felt. So,
well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was a way to end the book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that was a choice.
All right. So as we're wrapping this up, I have a couple announcements, but very first thing we're going to do is just say hello to the new patrons. Hey! Thank you guys so much. That took so long. Oh my God. I can't believe how
that's just so funny to me because I have no way to gauge that, right? Because I don't know when you push the button. So to me, it just sounds like it's on time. But
I just had to, I actually had to delete it. It wouldn't stop playing. Once it was so it's gone from my little soundboard now because I was just in a panic, just fine, just go away then. Christ. We're a very professional setup here, folks. All right. So this week we have Tobias Winker, Kelly M, Miles West, Albatross, and Kat Seaton.
Hey.
Welcome. Thank you guys so much for signing up. For those of you who didn't see the announcement that I made a few different places, I have reinstated the $1 tier. I decided to, just kind of change up what's available. And I made the first book in the Twilight coverage with Miles available publicly for free, I believe is the way that I played that one. It's I say publicly, it's available to anybody who becomes a patron, even if you are a free patron. So you have to become a member of the group on Patreon, but you don't need to spend any money and you will still get access to it. And I also am working on getting some other playlists created since they enabled that. And I have created a playlist for Westworld, what RoShawn and I covered. We did 1 through 3. There was one more season or 2 more?
One more, I think. Just one.
Did you watch it?
I did.
How was it?
Oh, I don't want to talk about it.
Oh my God. I kind of want to like do just one episode talking about the whole season and just like be like, all right, we finished, you know, maybe we could do an unsober episode at some point about it. But yeah, so I'm going to like make a playlist for The Leftovers, but for whatever reason, the first few episodes of coverage of The Leftovers weren't up on Patreon already. I don't know why.
That's weird.
Yeah, we started that long after we started Harry Potter, and Harry Potter's all up on Patreon. So I am not clear what I was doing there or if I mislabeled them or what's going on. So I'm going to have to upload those and then make the list a little bit later. But yeah, so that's what I'm working on, is trying to make some playlists that people can access that I think it's like $5 and up you'll be able to get. And that way it'll be ad free for you to listen through some of the old public shows as well. Because I pretty much added advertisements to the older shows, just enabled it. So I think that everything has ads now that's public. So, you there?
I'm here. Sorry. I didn't want to interrupt you because you had like a couple of announcements. I didn't want to throw your flow off.
But yeah, so that's what's going on, guys. So patreon.com/unspoiled if you would like to become a patron. And have had a few people join up to, they weren't able to, it's sort of funny, but they didn't want to donate to the GoFundMe. So they became a patron instead, so that they can give me like still a large amount of money, but spread out over time, which is how I also have to work. That's the way, you know, like I also have to make my purchases in installments and give my support in little drips and drabs. So that is fine
real.
with me.
That is so real. Lord have mercy.
All right, everybody. Thank you all again so much for listening. I hope you all enjoyed our coverage of the book, even though we did not like the ending. I mean, it still was very enjoyable.
There were some really good, solid moments and some fun shit. You know, it wasn't all bad. It wasn't a waste of time.
No.
I don't consider it at all. Like, I'm glad that we covered it. And we're looking forward to seeing the movie. So like people can, you know, check us out for that too.
Yeah. Yeah, do that. All right, guys. Until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Are you coming to the tree where dead man called out for his love to flee? Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.